We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The tidings we bring.
Welcome to the Lake Forest Podcast, a podcast about the lovely city of Lake Forest, featuring topics like local news, sports, music, people, food, and history. My name is Pete, and I'm joined with my co-host, Lake Forest history legend, Arthur Miller. But before we get to art class, we have a sponsor for the show, Shark Guy Beach Fishing. They're the premier South Florida beach fishing experience out of Longboat Key, Florida. Their world-renowned captains not only put you on the fish, but they'll help you and your family make a memory of a lifetime. Check them out on Facebook or at sharkguybeachfishing.com to schedule an outing. Shark Guy is your guy. Okay, one of the goals of the podcast is for our listeners to learn just a little bit more about Lake Forest. Well, who better to teach us about Lake Forest history than our own Lake Forest history legend, Arthur Miller? Okay, everyone, take your seats, fold your hands, and put them on top of the desk. Our art class is about to begin. Hey, Art, how you been? What you got in store for us?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, getting ready for Christmas season, holiday season.
I know. Yeah, so what I thought we would do in that spirit is to talk some about the let's say vintage, which would be my 50 years memory.
Yeah.
Of my vintage memories of the pageants and school things and things that the kids did over the years, and how this, I'm sure, connects back to earlier history also. Holiday things, you know, the originally Lake Forest centered around the schools. It was started for the schools, really. They had prep schools or high school type programs, and those brought kids out from the city. And so from the beginning, there was Christmas music and that sort of thing, Handel's oratorio. The churches were the other center for that, and had candlelight services going all the way back to the earliest times. But Lake Forest is also made up of a lot of smaller communities, neighborhood schools, high school, clubs, organizations. So these things all come together that you've mentioned, and the Christmas tree lighting, which sort of kicks off the season. And when I say kick off, you're telling me that I didn't go. It's too cold. Right. I didn't go. So, but you said they had like the Rockettes.
Well, they had the dance group up there, and I managed to put my phone up there and record it, and I'll put that in the show here to share with everybody. Yeah, it was great. They did a great job.
Because there's a link up between now, of course, so much about national events because of just the ubiquity of mass media and things like that. And contributing to that, of course, was for the local scene was John Hughes with Home Alone, Home Alone 2. And we think of those as, you know, kind of vintage movies. Those are the Charles Dickens for my grandkids' generation, you know. That
right.
No, they have memorized Home Alone's all the dialogue, you know. They know every you know, like every pause, everything. When the mom stops and says, Kevin, you know, they all say,
keep the change, you filthy animal.
I mean, they know, they do all that. They know the whole. I've seen it several times. I haven't bothered to memorize it, but they bother to memorize it. They watch it over and over and over again. It's part of the culture. It's more than the Christmas Carol. Christmas Carol, a lot of us remember that, but it's you know, for mass media, reading a story is not the same as seeing Home Alone sliding down the stairs in the ice and everything. So our local situation is that we have all these different little communities, different church groups. St. Mary's has got their programs. The Episcopals have their programs. The Presbyterians have their programs. All the churches do some kind of a pageant involving the little kids, involving somebody's baby, involving choirs, different kinds of choirs, and organ music and just other kinds of like at the Presbyterian Church, it's always lots of trumpets from the balcony and everything like that. So we have a whole bunch of formal to informal kinds of programs. The school programs, of course, are great. Everybody goes to see their kid in the pageant at school for the holiday, singing the songs, having a little solo maybe.
Right.
The boys acting out a little bit, on the sidelines, or not exactly following everything that's going on with how the women are young ladies are easily singing and all.
Right.
Boys are maybe a little bit less involved.
Don't know anything about those types.
No. A little less engaged. But you have the families are all there. Everybody's applauding. It's pretty exciting. And it is the quintessential holiday season. And there are various kinds of communities that do this. I mean, clubs obviously have their own elaborate situations. Now that I'm new at Lake Forest Place, and last year I was here, but there was everybody was locked in their room, kind of.
Yeah.
It was sort of a movie about Alcatraz or something. But now it's this year it was open, and so we had a big tree lighting ceremony here. We had music. We had people in costumes and all dressed up. So everybody somehow, in whatever group they're in, neighborhood groups who go caroling, church groups that go caroling, we have these ways of getting together with ours to make those kind of together statements, share cookies. Everybody has to bake cookies. Husbands have to decorate cookies. It goes on and on, right?
Oh, really?
You don't decorate cookies? No.
I just eat them. Decorate them with my teeth.
Some of us get into actually helping to decorate them.
Yeah.
The husbands wouldn't be as neat as maybe the wives ones would be.
Yeah.
But they're still there. So it's all part of the preparations. Putting stuff up for the holidays varies. It's accelerated while I've lived in Lake Forest for 49 years. I would say early in the 70s, everybody was conserving power and trying to not overuse oil or,
Oh, it's getting back that way, Art.
So the lights were kind of, subdued. There wasn't that much going on. It has grown a lot. Some places it can be overpowering. Not so much in Lake Forest. It's usually fairly tasteful, not too heavily done, but some places, yeah. And what's funny is to see where somebody has just gone overboard. All the neighbors, you can tell, are just sort of like, ooh, look at that. So do you decorate a lot at your house?
My wife does. If it was up to me, I would have either a fake green tree with the lights already wired into it, so I just take it out of the box and plug it in, or I'd get one of those aluminum trees.
Yeah, that's a period piece.
Or a Festivus aluminum pole is very popular.
Oh, wow.
From Seinfeld, yes.
Yeah, that's right. And there's variations on that. They're selling them now,
God bless America.
Right. So, yeah, there's probably a few Hanukkah bushes in Lake Forest, who knows.
Right.
But going on with the whole season, different people have different approaches to that. So I heard a song about something about Shik's a Baby. You know, somebody was singing a song about having a Merry Christmas with their goy girlfriend, whatever.
Fix the baby. Okay, I gotta look that up, Art.
Shik's a Baby.
If we got any
So
listeners that know anything about that, please come on the show.
it's fun to have, you know, a range of different things that people like to hear.
Right.
You hear all kinds of people's playlists, you know, Spotify and Apple Music, and everything is rolling with everybody's particular favorite things, you know. So that's it's amazing how this has been integrated into our more homemade local things. And of course, that was that goes back to the late 1890s, but mostly the first decade of the 20th century. People got, shall I say, retro interested in, as the movies came out. A lot of people objected to the movies and went back and insisted on doing their own entertainment. So that's when little theaters got started, community playhouses. People were saying, you know, we should do our own entertainment, not have something canned from outside that maybe we don't really relate to or whatever, but that it was an anti-progressive or anti-technology. It was anti-technology is what it was, basically. So there were amateur theaters, 2 or 3 different amateur theaters in Lake Forest, 1910, 1915. There were certainly there were people writing plays, they were writing literature here, they were doing stuff like that. So they were taking it against the talkie or the early the pre-sound pictures. They were injecting something else. So at Christmas time, they would have objected to a whole bunch of, you know, the kind of standard Santa Claus department store stuff. However, it was Lake Foresters who had a big role in creating the Walnut Room down at the Marshall Fields, which became Macy's.
Oh, really?
You've ever been to the Walnut Room at Christmas time?
My wife,
huge tree.
My wife told me all about it, but I didn't know Lake Foresters had something to do with that.
Well, it was designed by John Shedd, and he was the parents of Mrs. Reed and Mrs. Schweppe, and they're the women who built on the lake and then gave the money for the Lake Forest Library. Then the architect that worked with them to design that was Edward Bennett, and Edward Bennett lived on the southwest corner of Deer Path and Green Bay Road. Go by his house all the time. It's got the big stone, got a big gray, not gray, but a tan colored and brick wall around it. Very formal looking house.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who worked on the plan of Chicago with Daniel Burnham. But he was, before they did the plan of Chicago, he was called back from San Francisco by Burnham. And before they got rolling, he was working with Shedd to create the Walnut Room downtown. So that was what that tradition, which has gone on for families for probably, 100 years or so, is basically starts out as a Lake Forest phenomenon. It was obviously a marketing thing to have a big tree there, but it was just as well a big centralizing tradition that everybody went around. They went and looked at the windows at Marshall Fields, which were hugely done. And Shedd died in like 1928 or 29. And they kept going in the same mode. The Simpson family later that lived in Chicago, that lived in Lake Forest, still members of it do live in Lake Forest. Simpson was the next president. Basically, Marshall Fields was run from Lake Forest by different leadership families, Now, Marshall Field himself didn't live up here. In Lake Bluff, his nephew, Stanley Field, had a great big place on the lake. So they were part of the Unwencia community, the bigger estate community. But he wasn't, he was earlier than that. I think he belonged to Midlothian Country Club, which was south. And a lot of people were there They later switched up here to Wenwencia as it got bigger. But that basically Marshall Fields' 20th century existence is the story of Lake Forest leadership into the 70s when it was sold. They sold off the whole company. And many of the directors lived here and everything like that. So they sold it off, favorably for the people who were the owners, but not so favorably for those of us who like to shop there. It sort of slid slowly downhill. Doesn't mean that there is, I should clarify that. They had very expensive brands at Marshall Fields, even in Lake Forest at Christmas time. And everybody shopped there at Christmas time. Well, there was a Marshall Fields store up to 2005. And the perfume corner was superb, lots of other gifts and everything. So people really patronized it, especially in the holiday season. And that kept up right even after it was bought over by the other companies, but they kept the name and they kept the lines, not just the name, but they kept the better brands of products. When it went to Macy's wanted to make it more of a broadly appealing store to a wider demographic. In 2005, I think they were following the demography and not the economics, because the money, of course, stayed with the smaller group. I think they missed the boat on that. The money, the people who have most of the money are the smaller entrepreneurial, multi-generational families and that sort of thing that shopped at Marshall Fields. And they, by getting rid of some of the good brands that they were famous for, they lost that market. Those folks had to go to other kinds of places. People here might shop down at Old Orchard or something, make a point of going to different stores than they did back in the old days. Marshall Fields had covered a lot of territory. And it's still, and the Macy's still has all kinds of good stuff, but it isn't as elite. It doesn't have the elite, expensive stuff, designer things that they had before. So that made a difference. So our local traditions involved all of that. There still is a Macy's presence in Market Square because of the little cosmetic shop that's in the same old building there. I think it is. So, and people still shop all over in downtown Lake Bluff or Lake Forest, certainly. And we make a point of doing that. The bookstore booms, the toy store booms. Everybody hits all these places, the Kittles, etc. So, and most of them have been well stocked this year. Those are part of the traditions. And it starts out with the tree lighting, goes to the school programs that are coming up or have been, college programs, and private school programs like Woodlands, that sort of thing. So Christmas here is much like the rest of America. It is modernized with little kids now seeing, I mean, we have to think of John Hughes as now the Charles Dickens of the 21st century kids generation, Right. And those people are immortalized, It's not The Wonderful Life even, it's John Hughes. So that's not necessarily bad. Things just change. No. And the kids, who get a little bit sometimes pushed aside during all the parties and everything for the adults, sort of, and even forgotten, like little, what's his name does, they can understand, they can identify a little bit with the kid who's not a primary actor in creating Christmas. So,
little Macaulay. Now his brother's doing pretty well in HBO in a show called Succession. I think he's going to be more famous than Macaulay. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great, sure. So who knows?
I don't think that's a Christmas show, but
no. But I mean, but these Christmas shows, and there's one channel that my grandkids watch, some kind of free form or something like that, that has 25 Days of Christmas, that has different movies every night of these Christmas movies. And of course, the kids just memorize
Yeah.
them. Now, my grandkids are not supposed to spend a lot of time on the TV, but but they still manage. They have to prioritize something. They prioritize those Christmas movies. So that's been true since the early 50s, but it's much bigger now than it ever was before. It's grander. So, but still, with the base of it and the anti-mass media thing of it is the local school, church, organization, tree lightings, and Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, and earlier pageants and concerts. Yeah.
Well, Art, thanks for making us just a little bit smarter about Lake Forest history.
Well, my pleasure. I hope, and I'd love to hear other people's stories if they wanted to be in touch with us about.
Oh, this. Yeah. Hey, to be a guest, all you got to do is email Pete at lakeforestpodcast.com. Yep. Art, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to the Lake Forest Podcast. Please give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and smash that like button on Facebook, Instagram, and follow us on Twitter. Let us know what you'd like to hear about in the upcoming shows. Again, I'm Pete, and I can be reached at Pete at lakeforestpodcast.com. The link will be in the podcast notes. On behalf of my co-host, Arthur Miller, we thank you for listening, and we thank our Patreon sponsor, Shark Guy Beach Fishing. They're the premier South Florida beach fishing experience out of Longboat Key, Florida. Their world-renowned captains not only put you on the fish, but they'll help you and your family make a memory of a lifetime. Check them out on Facebook or sharkguybeachfishing.com. Shark Guy is your guy. We'd also like to say thanks to our Patreon supporters, Reverend Luke Beck from the Church of the Holy Spirit, Matt A., Elizabeth B., Costa Lance. Hey, if we don't talk to you all, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Domo
Christmas.
Origato Atto. Cue the music.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Now bring us some figgy pudding. Now bring us some figgy pudding. Now bring us some figgy pudding and bring it out here. The tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. For we all like figgy pudding. For we all like figgy pudding. For we all like figgy pudding. So bring it out here. The tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some.